And Bev, I'll give it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm not getting video. Are you getting my video?
No.
Okay, I am not figuring out how to get my video going here.
Should be at the bottom of the screen, bottom left.
Are you using a computer or a phone?
Using a laptop.
So on the bottom of the screen, there should be the microphone button and a video button on the left side.
I am not seeing anything.
Sometimes you have to move your cursor down and then the bar will pop up.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Microphone, speaker, audio settings.
Hi, Mira.
Wow, this has never happened to me before.
Is your laptop turned on?
You could, like, sometimes when I come into a meeting, I accidentally click join without video. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know if you want to like log out and come back in.
I'll quickly do that. Yeah. Okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe in the meantime, we can already get started.
Yeah.
Ken will present in 20 minutes anyways, so we have a little bit of time to figure it out.
Okay, so I'll start. So good afternoon. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Bev Megaway, and this is the Summer Readiness Workshop, and we are from the, me, Sheena, and Renee are from the Eastman Immigrant Services. So thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. And we are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for quite some time, like Renee and Sheena, and as well as those who are new to the group. We have Constable Denise, Tatiana, Ken, and Mira. And today's workshop is about summer readiness, and we are proud to be able to host it today virtually. So before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you, or to all the people and organizations who generously helped us make this event come together to become a success. The Eastman Immigrant Services, the Steinbach Chamber of Commerce, IRCC, and the Swiss, and our guest speakers. For this workshop, this will be recorded and will be uploaded in YouTube. So if any one of you here is not comfortable to be recorded, you are free to turn off your cameras. I think we are already recording. So Renee will be talking about Zoom tips later. So those of you who are not yet familiar with how Zoom works, Renee will be able to help us out with that. And so for this summer readiness workshop, we will cover 3 topics for our agenda. The first presentation is about bike safety, which will be presented by Constable Dennis Redicop. After his presentation, everybody are free to ask him some questions as well. The second presenter will be Ken Hebert. He is a lifeguard and he will tell us about water safety. So there is also a question and answer portion after his presentation. The third and last presentation for this afternoon will be done by our very own Sheena Friesen. She is a Swiss worker and she will discuss about parks and recreation, to be followed, of course, by a question and answer portion. So without further ado, let's hear from Renee about Zoom tips.
Yeah, this will be just very brief. If you have any questions, if you have any technical questions, you can direct them to me, either through the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you're on a laptop computer, or on the bottom of the screen, there should be a reaction button. If you click on that, you can raise your hands, and that makes sure that we can kind of see if you have any questions or concerns or whatever. Also, after the presentations, there will be a Q&A section. So if you feel comfortable, you can write it into the chat. If you want to ask it directly, please raise your hand and wait for us to pick on you. And I think that's pretty much all that I had. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
I'll be highlighting the presenter. So if you want to change the view, like I'll be doing it for you, but if you want to change it back to how it is right now, so you can see everybody, this is called the gallery view. If you're on a laptop computer, go to the top right corner, you see the button view, you can click on that. There's a speaker view, and there will be also a gallery view. So while we are presenting, I'll be spotlighting these people just so we can see their full beautiful faces. Anyways, let's get started. Beth, back to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Renee. Yes, so let's hear from Constable Dennis Redicop. He will be presenting about bike safety. Here you go.
Thank you, Beverly. Just again, I just want to introduce myself. I am Constable Dennis Redicop. I work for the Steinbach RCMP detachment. I've been here for the past almost 6 years. I grew up here. I'm an immigrant myself. Became a Canadian citizen about 12 years ago. So I love being a Canadian citizen. I love the country, and I love, being a police officer here and serving my community where I grew up. As the RCMP, that's not a promise where you grew up, that's where you'll be working, but I'm very fortunate to work where I grew up. I don't have a lot of time today about bike safety. Usually my bike safety presentations I do in person, obviously for obvious reasons. This can't be done this year. Usually these presentations are much longer, so I've condensed them in a very quick, point form here, the basics. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If you didn't get a chance to ask the question today, or didn't feel comfortable, my door is always open. You can contact me. You can get my email address from Renee or someone from the immigration office. They all have my emails. But yeah, so I wanted to quickly touch up on bike safety. Pretty much we want to encourage everyone, to, during the summertime, right? It's summers here in Steinbach in Canada or Manitoba are beautiful summers, right? So we want to encourage everyone, if you have a bike, go out, get some good exercise and have fun, right? But there's always a safety aspect as well, right? So there are some rules, there's some laws in Manitoba that you still have to abide by when you're cycling out on the streets, on the roads. And I just want to give you guys some safety tips and what some laws are in Manitoba regarding cycling. First and foremost, when you do go out cycling, we always encourage, everyone to make sure your bicycle is safe to ride. And the best way to do that is just think of ABC. Okay, A for air, B for brakes, and C for chain, right? A for air, make sure you have enough air in your tires, right? Just regarding more safety, right? B, make sure your brakes are working properly. Pump on the brakes, make sure it doesn't move when you pull the brake handles, right? And then C, chain, make sure they're lubricated, they're free from debris, right? And it's just some basic concepts to see that your bike is safe for the road. And then there's some 10 basic rules as well. In Manitoba, if you're under 18 years of age, it is required by law to wear a helmet. It's always still encouraged if you're over 18 and over, it's still to wear a helmet. That doesn't mean you don't have to. It's more about safety issue. But in Manitoba, it is required by law under 18 to wear a helmet when you're riding a bicycle on, on the street road or on a sidewalk. So that's the most important thing is, when under 18, wear a helmet, but always, if you're over 18, be a good role model, right? For the kids out there, wear a helmet. It's more about safety than laws, right? So just make sure as adults, as parents, as guardians, wear a helmet, even if it's not required by law. It's a huge safety aspects because the kids, they always look up to you as parents, as adults, right? And then, when they're young, right? And if they do fall, right, then at least their heads and brains are protected, right? And then, if they're 18, hopefully they'll continue on wearing a helmet. But that's the pretty much the law in Manitoba is under 18, you have to wear a helmet. Step 2, using hand signals. So when you're riding on the road or a street, right, and you want to turn into a street, or if you want to stop your bicycle, use hand signals. And there are basic hand signals. If you want to turn left into a road, use your left hand straight out, you want to turn left. It just shows the cars, the drivers, you want to signal somewhere, right? Or turning right, use your right hand straight out, that you're turning right. Or if you want to stop, you just put out your hand like this, right? With your hand down 90 degrees, shows that you're stopping. And if you're riding a bicycle, if you want to turn right and you don't want to use the right hand, this is a signal for turning right. Okay, this is turning left, this is turning right, this is, you're stopping or you're slowing down to stop. That would be, step 2, making sure that you use your hand signals properly when you're coming to a stop or if you want to turn somewhere. Step 3, obey all traffic laws. Okay, so a cyclist has the same rules as, somebody driving a vehicle. Okay, so if you come into an intersection and you see a stop sign, you should stop, make sure that you have the right of way, and then go. Okay, it's the same rules as if you're in a car, you come to a stop sign, you stop, and if you're the first person there, then you go, right? But you can't be blowing through stop signs. That's the one major thing we see, as cyclists, they think, there's no vehicles. Okay, I'm just on a bicycle, right? I can go through, right? It's safe. Not Manitoba. The laws are you have to obey all traffic laws as if you're driving a car, right? So if you see a crosswalk, right, and somebody wants to cross on a crosswalk, you got to stop. You got to let the person cross on a crosswalk, on a pedestrian crosswalk. If there's a yield sign, you yield to other vehicles or cyclists. It's the same laws pretty much, right? If there's a red light, traffic light, you stop. When it's a red, when it's green, then you go. Pretty much obey all traffic laws as the same as, if you're driving a car. Pretty much can't get simpler than that, explaining what the rules are for a cyclist. And yeah. Step 4, keep to the right when you're cycling. So when you're cycling on the road, keep to the right, and you have to drive the same directions as the cars are going. Okay, not towards the cars, it's the same directions as the cars going. So if a car is going eastbound, you drive on the eastbound lane going east. So those are pretty much how you ride on the road, is sticking to the right. And it's the same side, your chain is on, easy to remember. Your chain is on the right side, you stick to the right side of the street and go with the direction of the traffic. Step 5, always shoulder check, right? You're on a bicycle, if you're riding on the road, if you get into a collision, a car will always win, right? So you're on a bicycle, right? You'll be easily under a car, right? So even if you have the right of way, right, and you're following all the laws, right, and the car is not, properly driving, right, just be careful, right? Because a car always wins in a collision, right, against a pedestrian. I've never had where a cyclist, had no scratches or no damage and the car is total, right? That's it's just obvious, right? So shoulder check, if you want to change lanes or you want to turn somewhere, make sure, no cars behind you on either side. Because, sometimes drivers, they can be, often, they're in like, they can do anything, right? And nothing will touch them, right? So just be careful when you're on a cyclist, when you're cycling. And when step 6, when you're turning, make sure the intersections are clear. That goes back to step 5, shoulder checking. And when you're turning right, make sure a car that doesn't want to, like, if the car wants to turn right as well into a street, make sure that the car is visible to you and you're visible to them, right? And if they're turning, just be careful, that they see you as well. Be careful near parked vehicles. Oftentimes, or sometimes, there might be somebody in the vehicle and they might just swing the door open, right? Give enough room, when you're passing parked vehicles, that in case somebody surprisingly, opens their driver's side door, right? That you don't, drive into the door, right? Just give enough room for parked vehicles just in case somebody's inside and just doesn't look when they're stepping out. That's another safety aspect of that. Step 8, watch out for moving vehicles. Stop and look in all directions before riding onto the street from the driveway or sidewalk. Get off your bike to cross a crosswalk or intersection. That's more for kids, if they're allowed to drive on the sidewalk. If they're walking across a crosswalk, get off your bike, walk across, and then get back on. It just builds habits, that you don't just cross the crosswalk. It build a habit, you come across a crosswalk, you get off the bike, then you automatically look, right? It's just extra steps to be safe when you're crossing crosswalks. And then number 9 is, know where to ride, so there's laws in Manitoba that it's illegal to drive on the sidewalk if your tire size are 16 inches or bigger or over 16 inches. So I think that would be around a grade 3 kid, right? So I think if you're around grade 3, then you should be riding on the road. If you're younger than that, then we recommend kids driving on the sidewalk and wearing helmets. But if your tire sizes are bigger than that, then you should be riding on the road. Single file, don't have 3 or 4 driving side by side. It would be recommended always to drive single file. And number 10 is be seen. So if you're driving at nighttime, right, make sure you have lights on, front or back, wear something reflective, something visible that cars can see you at nighttime. Don't wear black clothing, black jackets, black shoes or shorts or pants, right? It just makes it that much harder for cars to see you or whoever's cycling. So wear something reflective, wear something bright so cars can see you, especially at nighttime, when it's hard to see. Otherwise than that, those are pretty much the 10 rules of the road for cycling. If you have any questions, I think I'll just give some time now to if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
Is there anybody who want to ask question about the presentation of Constable Dennis?
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
I'm curious, can you get a ticket for not wearing a bicycle helmet?
If you're under 18, then yes. If you are under 14, I believe the parents would get a ticket as well.
Okay, and how much is that ticket?
I think it's around $60.
Okay.
So don't quote me on that. I would have to look in my ticket book, but it's around $60.
And where could someone find those hand signals online?
Well, you can go onto the Manitoba Public Insurance website and just type in, they have a link there for bicycle safety. I do have pamphlets for bicycle safety. They have hand signals in here as well. I wanted to drop some off at the Eastman Immigration, and yeah, people can pick it up there as well. It has all the basic rules and some hand signals in there as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Well, I have the same question as Sheena, so thank you so much. Okay then, so if we don't have any more questions for Constable Dennis Redcup, sorry, let's proceed to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Constable Dennis Redcup. We really appreciate your presentation. We learned a lot. I learned a lot as well. Yeah, so the next presenter would be Ken Hebert. He is a lifeguard and he will be presenting about water safety. Okay, so let's hear from Ken.
There we go. Can everyone hear me? Good. So my name is Ken Hebert. I am a lifeguard, like was said. I also do a lot of instructing of like making lifeguards or teaching lifeguards to be lifeguards and swimming instructors. So the reason we are talking about water safety at this time of year is because people drown. And in Canada, about just under 300 people drown every year. The reason that we talk about it a bit more right now is because people like to swim outside in lakes, rivers, beaches, etc. And so when people are out having fun in the water, there's a certain percentage of people that drown. And so we're going to take a look at a few statistics, first of all, to see sort of what groups are at risk. And then we're going to look at some ways that we can prevent drowning. So a few statistics. I said that just under 300 people every year in Canada drown. People that are at risk, unfortunately for us guys, we're part of the problem. Males drowned at a rate of about 4 out of every 5, just under 4 out of every 5 drownings is a male. So males tend to be more risk takers, and so they tend to drown at a higher rate. About 3 out of 5 drownings happen to people who are near or on water, let's say on a boat, but were not intending to go into the water. So just because you're not swimming doesn't mean you're at risk, that you're not at risk for drowning. So 3 out of 5 people did not intend to be in the water, but they still ended up drowning. Very few people drown in supervised swimming pools. Of all the people that drown in swimming pools, 87% of them are unsupervised, like backyard swimming pools. So a safe place to swim would be supervised swimming pools. Drowning is the leading cause of unintentional accidental death in children age 1 to 4. So children are at risk of drowning. How can we prevent drowning? And so some of the ways that we can prevent drowning, drowning is 100% preventable. And so some of the things that we can do is when boating or playing near water, wearing PFDs or life jackets, really, really important. This one always has to come with a disclaimer though, because life jackets and PFDs, PFD stands for personal flotation devices. That's what most people wear when they are going boating. Life jackets and PFDs they do not replace supervision. So just because you put children in life jackets doesn't mean that they are safe from drowning. People can drown with life jackets on very, very easily. They help, but they do not replace supervision. Children should always, that are 7 and under, should be within arm's reach of an adult when swimming in the water. This is a law for Manitoba swimming pools, and it should be followed wherever in all beach, lake, river type of scenarios. How can we, some of the things that we need to be aware of when swimming in like unsupervised conditions is things like cold water. In spring and fall, Manitoba lakes and rivers are very cold. The amount of time that you have to be rescued and get out of the water gets lower and lower as the temperature of the water is less. So people can drown very quickly in cold water. It's always a factor. Things like weeds. People drown because they get caught in weeds. So when they're swimming around weeds, they can drown. It's happened. I've seen it happen within the last few years. Currents, lakes, a lot of rivers and streams have strong currents. Swimming in current is very difficult, even for experienced swimmers. So being able to get to the side quickly and not try to swim against the current. Swimming against the current really sucks your energy, and it can definitely contribute to drownings. Swimming in bad weather or high wave conditions. I was just at Grand Beach on the weekend, and the waves are really high. Even experienced swimmers have a difficult time swimming in high waves. So if people slip and fall while even if they're not in very deep water, they can easily drown because it's hard to even stand in high waves. Avoiding risky behavior. Alcohol is a high contributor in accidental deaths in water at all times. So avoiding alcohol and taking risks. What are some risks that we need to avoid? Swimming in areas that you don't know how the depth, especially if you're not an experienced swimmer. Also, swimming beyond your abilities, like trying to, people dare each other to swim to a certain point. A man just drowned in Manitoba a couple of weeks ago because he tried to swim to an island and he couldn't make it and he drowned. And so this happens. Another person drowned that very same day in Manitoba because they were on a sandbar and they slipped off and they couldn't swim and they drowned because they didn't know how to swim. So things like that are factors. Taking risks, not knowing what your limits are. If you're not a good swimmer, avoid deep water because that's a high risk activity if you're trying to swim or if you're near deep water and you're not a good swimmer. Taking swimming lessons is a great idea for people of all ages. And a lot of people send their kids to swimming lessons and they don't know how to swim themselves. And another drowning that happened that same Friday was a father with family and young children. He slipped into the water and he drowned. And so adults often, they're happy to take their kids to swimming lessons, but they don't know how to swim. And so taking adult swim lessons, it takes a lot of courage. A lot of times people don't want to admit that they don't know how to swim. I only took my first swimming lesson the year I turned 40 years old. And so it's never too late to learn how to swim. And it can definitely save your life. People, when children learn how to swim at swimming lessons, they also learn how to save themselves from different scenarios like falling into the water, orientating themselves to be able to get to the side and get out, being able to support themselves in deep water for a period of time. These are all life-saving skills that can literally save your life. And so it's not just for children, it's also for adults. At this time, I would be happy to answer some questions if you have.
Can you speak to how much water it actually takes for a child to drown?
Literally 2 inches of water for a child. When your face is in the water, it's deep enough to drown in. And so it doesn't take a lot of water, especially for children. And this also goes for elderly people. People don't often think of it, that elderly people are often just as high risk with things like mobility, because if you have reduced mobility and you fall down even into shallow water, even just getting up takes quite a bit of energy and strength.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ken. So water-wise, which is more safe? Swimming in like a lake or a river, or a swimming pool? Because in my personal point of view, I don't like swimming in a swimming pool because there's so many people and the water is not running, and so yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? And the only reason that swimming pools would be safer is if they are supervised. But there's some places that are also supervised, like some beaches are also supervised. But the main thing is just to understand your own capabilities. People have to be rescued very often at swimming pools as well. And the reason they have to be rescued by lifeguards is because they don't understand their own limitations and they take risks, and then they have to be rescued. So if you understand the risks of your and your own abilities in lakes and rivers, like I love swimming in lakes and rivers as well. I love the feeling of, you know, the freedom of swimming in cool, clean water. And it's very enjoyable, but just understanding your situation, like high wind, high waves, the bottom, if it's not a consistent bottom, like if it changes depth very quickly, things like that make a factor. But other than that, it's basically just understanding your own limitations, and also watching children when they are swimming at a beach, things like that.
Thanks, Ken. Any more question for Ken? Okay, so if we don't have any more question for Ken, we'll proceed to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate your presentation. I actually felt really guilty when you said there are parents that who are constantly, wanting their child to be in the swimming lesson, but then they themselves don't know how to swim, and I am one of that. I I admit that I'm always scared of the water. I don't know why, but yeah, but I always take precautions when going to the water. Okay, so our next presenter is Sheena Friesen. She is a Swiss worker and she works with us. So Sheena will be presenting about parks and recreation. So, thanks, Sheena. Your turn.
I got the fun topic. So, I'm not an expert in fun and recreation, except that I've lived in Manitoba my entire life. So I guess that makes me a semi-expert. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know everyone can see it. Yeah. Okay. Ta-da! I felt like I was back in college making a slideshow here. So, enjoying a Manitoba summer. This is going to be a pretty straightforward presentation. All of the pictures came from Travel Manitoba. I have all their information in the slideshow as well, and I can also send it out as a email PDF if anybody would like it. So, Manitoba is stunningly gorgeous. I love living here, and I'm not just saying that because I'm doing this presentation, but I really rather would not live anywhere else. So this is just outlining where you can go in Manitoba, what you can do once you get there, and what you kind of need to enjoy those places. This is definitely not the only places you can go. There are, I mean, we could probably sit here and you could each list 5, 10, even 15 things that you like to do in the summer in Manitoba. So it's definitely not an exhaustive list, but we got to start somewhere. So places to see in Manitoba. This is Grand Beach. It's beautiful there. It's absolutely stunning. You can walk out very far and it's very shallow, but you got to be careful because we just learned why. Gimli is also very similar to this, but Grand Beach is beautiful. So Manitoba has many great places to see and a lot of fun things to do, but you need to know where to find it. And with all of these places and activities, this is my caveat, you got to check the COVID restrictions because I'm going to talk about them like there are no restrictions. I'm just going to tell you what they are and what's available there. So you may want to call ahead. For example, if you want to go to the snake pits this spring and see hundreds, maybe thousands of garter snakes come up. I mean, we missed it, but I believe it was closed this year just because of COVID and restrictions. So make sure for things like that, you maybe call ahead. So in a short amount of time in Manitoba, you can feel hours away from the city, immersed in the beautiful landscape of Manitoba. From rolling prairies to a desert, a snake pit, and beaches, there's really something for everyone to enjoy. Things like fishing and kayaking, canoeing, boating, and swimming, you can find these things sometimes all in the same place. You can camp, you can hike, you can bike, and you can play all over Manitoba. So, oh, my little screen is covering. There we go. So where to go? So travelmanitoba.com is a real wealth of information when it comes to what to do actually for any season in Manitoba. It's a fantastic resource and they've got the lists of all the beaches, all the campgrounds, all the hiking trails, the great fishing spots, the lodges, and things you can do as a family even within Winnipeg. So they cover every area of Manitoba from here in the southeast corner all the way up to northern Manitoba. So it's a really great website for you to check out. So these are some of my favorite places to go in Manitoba, and these are some of the pictures of them. St. Malo Beach and Campground. From my house here close to St. Pierre, it's about a 15-minute drive. From you guys in Steinbach, it's a little bit longer. I love it. If you have young children, this is a fantastic place to go. It's a bit of a feels like a smaller beach. There's a great campground, there's bike trails, there's play structures, there's ice cream, there's clean bathrooms. This is really important when you have young children. Clean bathrooms. Falcon Lake is also a really great place to go. They've got a very nice campground. They've also got riding stables nearby where they have all levels of riding. They've got some great mini golf. They've also got fishing and a marina where you can rent boats. So there's no lack of things to do. And that's about an hour and a half out from Steinbach, so not very far towards Ontario. Grand Beach, that's definitely a hot spot in summer just because the sand is so beautiful, the water is gorgeous. It's a little bit more open water. You get some big waves on there. Ken was not lying. And so you definitely want to be aware of yours, like how well you can swim. Now, some of these beaches will actually have PFDs or life jackets available. I know that St. Malo does. So if you don't have one, but you feel more comfortable with your child wearing one, that's definitely something that is available. I don't know about Grand Beach, but St. Malo also offers that. Gimli's a great place to go. It's not super far from here, especially far from you, Beverly, because that's out in Interlake region. They've got a great Viking museum. You can go fishing off the pier. They've got a beach that you can walk out for miles. It feels like miles. And great little shops, delicious local fish and chips. It's wonderful. It's a great place to go. Pinawa Dam, that's a picture up there on the top right. Super fun to explore. Not too far from here either. It's just lots of hiking trails. It's super fun. Sandylands, which is also very close. You can go there, you can hike the trails, you can have a fire, you can bring your bikes. Lots of people bring ATVs. So it's a provincial park. We're going to talk about what you need to get into the provincial parks coming up. Spruce Woods National Park, that's where the snake pits are. There's a desert there. Yeah, you didn't know Manitoba had a desert. We do. There's also lots of hiking trails, and it's just a really fun experience for kids. Of course, Birds Hill Provincial Park is always a highlight for families. Great beaches, camping, there's some riding stables nearby, great bike paths. If your family likes to ride their bikes, this is a wonderful place for you to bring your kids and your bike. They've got all sorts of trails for all kinds of levels, and it's a great experience if you want to take your bikes out of the city. All right. So sometimes it's a little bit easier to stay within the city limits, and there's tons of fun things to do as well. So this is the picture of the brand new Aunt Sally's farm at the Assiniboine Park Zoo, which was a big deal for me because when I was a kid, Aunt Sally's farm was a ton of fun, and then they took it away, but now they brought it back and it looks like it's better than ever. So you can head to the zoo. It's a lot of walking. Be prepared if you have little people with little legs, but it is a ton of fun to go see the polar bears and Aunt Sally's farm, and just great experience to see all of those animals. Very close to the Assiniboine Park Zoo is the Assiniboine Park Adventure Playground, which my kids, when they were little, lived and died for that place. So much fun if you've got anybody, I'd say like 10, 12 and under. An adventure playground actually encourages children to climb high and run fast and slide fast, and they've got netting ropes to climb and big tires, and it's just like this great playground for kids. So you could make an entire long day just by going to the Assiniboine Park. They also have great bike paths. They've got the Lyric Theater. I don't know about right now, but often you can go to ballet in the park. It's free. Bring a picnic. There's always events there. It's a good time. The Forks is downtown in Winnipeg. Fun to walk alongside the river. And there's also the Children's Museum. Again, I'm not sure if it's open right now, but if you've got kids like 10 and under, the Children's Museum is a super fun place to explore. And of course, the Manitoba Museum. That's maybe for a little bit of older children. So sometimes they have special exhibits, sometimes they bring in a dinosaur exhibit, but it's a great place to learn about the history of Manitoba. So I enjoy that one. And of course, close to home, we've got the Mennonite Heritage Village. Again, we like going there during Pioneer Days, which is in August, but there's tons of great stuff to do. Lots of history about Steinbach and the Mennonites, and so it's always very informative. Of course, Kismet Creek Farm is a farm animal sanctuary just outside of town. They take in farm animals that have either been neglected or left behind, and they just give them a great place to live out the rest of their years. It also is a petting zoo, so you can go and you can feed the animals and pet them, and it's a really great experience if your kids aren't really familiar with, like, what does a goat feel like? What does a cow look like? What do rabbits do? They've got turkeys, they've got everything, and they're super friendly there. Of course, the Steinbach Aquatic Center is a ton of fun. I'm not sure if it's open yet, but they did some massive renos last year, I believe. And so it should be neat to see when we can get back in there again. I had to put Tinkertown on here. It's not my favorite place to go as a parent. Kids love it. Oh man, lots of rides, cotton candy. It's a really great experience, probably for kids 12 and under. The rides aren't super scary or super big, but they've also got Splash Mountain if your kids like water slides. So that's a fun experience just outside the perimeter of Winnipeg. But I think the last two on this list are my absolute favorite. Every community, and I'm pretty sure it's almost every community, has their own splash pad or splash park. Blumenort, La Broquerie, St. Pierre, Steinbach, everybody has one. They're free and they are fantastic if you've got small children. And so when I had very little kids, we would pack a bunch of snacks, we would head to the splash park, and we would be there all day. It's wonderful. And of course, the local parks around are also a ton of fun. Although I did hear they just took down the zip line at the 80 Penner Park. so tragic. And I think it's really important to remember that a fun summer doesn't actually have to cost a lot of money. You can maybe choose one big thing you're going to do this summer, or two big things. You know, we're going to go camping in July, and we're going to go to the Assiniboine Park Zoo in August. And then you can just fill in the rest of those days with hiking and biking and going to the park and going to the splash pad. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And I think that's important for people to understand. Oh, let's go to the next one. So, having said all of that, there are some things that you are going to need depending on what you're doing. So you're going to need a Manitoba Park Pass in order to get into any provincial park. Now you can buy like a summer's long pass, you can buy a day pass, or you can buy a 3-day pass. There's a bunch of different options. The best bang for your buck is obviously buying the summer pass, which I believe is 50 or 60 bucks. I think that's what it's at right now. Because you'll very quickly, if every weekend you're going to the beach, very quickly you're going to use that. So you will need that Parks Pass to get into any provincial park. If you're going fishing, you will also need a fishing license. You can't just fish without a license. I mean, you can, but you can get a ticket. So you can get a full license or a half license, and you need it to fish anywhere in Manitoba. Now, every lake has different fish. They have different limits on how many fish you can catch in that lake. So it is a really good idea if you go to the Manitoba e-licensing website. I've got that at the bottom of this slide as well. But be familiar with where you're going, where the boat launch is, every lake by now has its own website. Never hurts to go and check that out first. Make sure you're comfortable with where you're going, that you know everything that you need so that you can actually fully enjoy yourself. If you want to drive a boat, you also need a boater's license. So you can just get that online. It's an online test. There's no practical, like having to be in a boat, someone testing you, but you are required to have a boater's license in order to drive a boat in Manitoba. You can paddle a canoe or a kayak, but a motorized boat, you need a license. Campground reservations, those are fun. They were really hard to get this year, but I would say continue checking with the Manitoba e-licensing website. That's where you're going to get your campground reservations at. Some places open up, some places you can just show up to, but again, go to the website, give the campground a call. You want to go camping to Grand Beach, just find the phone number, type in Grand Beach. It's not that hard. That way you're prepared. There's a couple of things you're going to need to enjoy some of those things. Mosquito repellent is one of them. If this is your first summer in Manitoba, I'm sorry. I'm just going to apologize in advance because the mosquitoes can be atrocious. We've been very fortunate this year. We haven't had too many yet, but mosquito repellent is something you are going to want to have, especially at sundown. Dusk is the time when they are out the most. You can get anything with DEET in it. You can get natural ones. It's really up to you, but something you are going to want to have. Same thing with sunscreen, especially between the hours of about 12 and 4. That's when the sun and the UV rays are at their highest and hottest. So be aware of that, especially with young children, people who are elderly, and if you're working in the sun. So important, again, sunscreen, you can get natural sunscreen, you can get copper tone. There are a million different products out there, but having something in your vehicle, that's usually, it comes with me wherever we go. And again, life jackets are really important. You have to wear a life jacket on a boat. That's part of it. You just do. It's kind of like wearing a seatbelt in a car. So a really important thing to remember, if you decide that your family, they love fishing, they love going to the beach, then invest in PDFs and life jackets. You will not regret that. So some things to be prepared about or for. We already talked about mosquito repellent, also wood chips. That's kind of fun. That season is actually coming to a close. At the end of June, wood ticks are usually a bit less. Don't freak out about wood ticks. It's okay. They don't all carry Lyme disease. I know it's a little bit scary, but as long as you're removing them properly, that's the biggest thing. You want to be fast when you remove them. Don't suffocate them with Vaseline or burn them with a pin or do any of those things, because a wood tick will spit back whatever it's got in its body, and that's actually what makes you sick. So if you just pull them out quick, you can get tick removers or a tweezer. That's actually the best way to do it. And then if you have chickens like me, you feed them to the chickens and they love them. So if you are planning on being at the beach all day, it's really important to be aware of the sun and the heat. So sunscreen when the UV is at its highest, hats, take breaks in the shade, lots of water, and know the signs of sunstroke and heat stroke. If you also get a really bad sunburn, it will blister like a burn. And so you don't want to spend Sunday in the hospital for that after having a great Saturday at the beach. So stay hydrated. Make sure if you start to feel a little bit dizzy or nauseous or even a bit sleepy, get out of the sun, cool off, drink lots of fluids, and remind your kids to do the same. When kids are busy, then they don't want to be bothered by stopping. So make sure you're reminding your kids to do the same. Again, life jackets, always wear them on a boat. Even the strongest swimmers need help sometimes. And again, there's always safety in numbers. If your kids, if you're going to the beach, I mean, we would go to the beach as moms and have our kids there, and we would all keep our eyes on all the kids. So remembering that even if it's not your kid in the water, keep an eye on them. Just do that. It's just nice because there's times when as a parent, you get busy with something else, and to have that extra person to be like, oh, can so-and-so go that deep? Are they okay to do that? It feels really good. So have that conversation before you go to the beach. Hey, all eyes on all the kids, please. And we've even done buddy systems when the older kids, where it's like, just keep your eyes on that one because you know that one needs many, many sets of eyes on it. So important to remember when you go to the beach or to any sort of water. And weather can change quick, especially if you're on a boat. It can be sunny and warm, and within minutes, it can change to stormy and cold and somewhat scary. So be aware of the weather when you step out, and you don't want to be stranded on the water. One quick mention for burn bans, depending on your where you live. If it's been really hot and really dry, you more than likely will not be allowed to have a fire. It doesn't matter if you live in the country or in town, but that's just to keep everybody safe. And so now that we've had some rain, you may have heard that the burn bans have been lifted, but it's always something to remember and to be aware of. And the RMs are really good at putting up signs. So if there is a burn ban, please don't have any fires. Doesn't matter if it's in a fire pit or in a burn barrel or any of those things, no fires. All right, and winding up, closing off here, get outside. Even if all you do is explore every single park in Steinbach this summer, have fun. Leave your phone at home, pack a lunch, bring some books, and just enjoy being outside. Kids really don't care where you go as long as you are engaged and excited. They just want to spend time doing things with you. They actually don't care. You can bike to Dairy Queen for a 99-cent cone. They don't care. That's going to be a great memory for them. Doesn't have to be expensive. You just have to be present. So that feels like I talked a lot and tried to cram a lot of information in a short amount of time. But if you have any questions or you want more info on these places, or maybe you'd like some specific suggestions depending on the age of your kids, you can always call me on my Swiss number, or you can email me at sheena@eastmanis.com, and I'm happy to help you. And again, I will give you those websites for the e-licensing and for Travel Manitoba, because I believe those will be super helpful for you. And that's all I have. All right, anyone has any questions? That's great. If not, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, I think it's almost time. Well, thank you so much, Sheena. That's like a ton of very, very it's a gem. It's a ton of information that you really wanted to know, and some of the places that you made mention, we went there actually when my family came to Canada. Our first family camp was in St. Malo. Yeah, and then we went to Grand Beach and Falcon Lake, and then Clear Lake, and then we went a little bit farther. So we explored Paint Lake, Thompson, Grand Rapids. We went to Paishu Falls. There's like a tons of fun things to go and to do here in Manitoba. See, we don't really need to go outside Manitoba yet. Well, thank you so much, Sheena. Yeah, so we don't have any more questions. So probably that concludes our workshop for this afternoon. So we learned a lot this afternoon about staying safe and healthy. So as Constable Dennis said, for bike safety, you have to remember your ABC: air brake chain, and the 10 rules, and then water safety per can. And then Sheena, if you like camping and fishing, then you have to remember all the tips that she presented to us. And yes, so we learned a lot this afternoon about staying safe and healthy so that we can fully enjoy the whole summer. Many thanks to all the wonderful speakers and the attendees. We know that you took some time out of your busy personal and professional schedules to join us this afternoon, and that means so much to us. And last thing, we would like to remind all of you again that the video will be posted in YouTube in the coming days. So if you miss some part or you want to go back to some of the information being mentioned today, you can always go back by watching the video in YouTube. So I would like to close this session with a quote from Ralph Emerson. He said, "Live in the sunshine, swim in the sea." We don't have a sea, so swim in the lake or swim in the pool, drink in the wild air. So have a wonderful summer, everyone. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.